Hi, all. Dana Dubois here for I Write Out Loud. Sorry if my voice just got weird there for a moment. I am doing this show through StreamYard, and I'm a little nervous that it's not hooked up. So I'm going to act like we're not connected yet, and I'm going to wait until Substack shows me as live because until then, I don't believe I'm live. Hopefully, I set this up correctly. And you will all see me, you all see me now, and I will see me in just a moment. My little dog Kira is here, and she is ready for a treat. So let's give her a treat, shall we? I still don't see anything, but I'm hopeful that in the next few minutes I will. Let me go check. I'm going to check I set this up to go live on Facebook and let me see here, me. Oh, it does show me as live right now on Facebook. So it's working there. I'm going to hit refresh here again on the I'm live on Substack. I'm sorry for the lag, y'all. Once I get more experienced with doing this, I see there's a bunch of you here already. Sound off in the chat and say hello because I didn't see your names as you were joining. I hate that Substack intentionally is obtuse about using streaming platforms. It is so much harder to set up a Substack live than YouTube or Facebook. Hi, Denise. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Adelaide. Thank you for weighing in and saying hello. If anyone else wants to not be shy and do that as well, I would love that. This is also my first time trying to go live on YouTube. So let me see here, view your channel live. They don't really make this easy either. Yep, I'm here live. There's literally nobody here except for me. Hello, but I'm here. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the Substack chat. So if you guys are on YouTube, if you want to go in there and like it, or at least subscribe to me on YouTube. I think I have like 90 subscribers because I have never fired up this channel, but I plan to, especially now that I finally have a StreamYard studio set up where I can just simulcast. So hello world, wherever you are listening, and mostly Substack because that's where I mostly live online. Again, I am Dana Dubois from I Write Out Loud. I have lots to talk about today. And oh, look at all these folks who've weighed in and said hi. So let me say hi, Jennifer. Hi, Linnea. Hi, Stacy. Hi, Lynette. Hi, another Jennifer. We've got Denise here from Dallas, Texas. Lynette from Northeast Pennsylvania. Thank you for loving my hair, Denise. I'm a couple minutes late because I literally just got it done. And like what this is doing for me to look in my reflection and be like, I'm a redhead again. And I have like normal non-hippie hair. It will never look this good again. I asked a few photographer friends of mine if they would take some photos of me tonight while it looks this good because I need just some promotional photos and none of them were available. So you all should just take this in. Even by tomorrow morning, it will not look this good. But yeah, I love how she does my hair. So I'm a little like, you can probably hear like energy coming in. So I'm going to take a sip of water and just sort of and just get in the zone to do this live. Lynette, I hear you. I don't love sitting for the time that it takes. And I have a lot of hair, so it tends to take a long time. But she's pretty quick and relatively speaking. And I think she does a really good job and she isn't too exorbitant. How to find you on YouTube. Oh, I put the link above, Denise, but I'll put it here again. That is where I am on YouTube. Or at least that's where the live stream of this show is. So it's good to be here. Thank you for everyone clicking the hearts. Yes, you do see Kira coming for her treat. I already gave her one. Look at her though. She's so cute. I also got a new sofa and chairs delivered today, right before I went to get my haircut. So I have that newness. And the most exciting thing that's happened today, though, is some of you may have seen in my Substack notes that my daughter, Nico, we will be spending quite a bit of time talking about essays that are at least tangentially about her. She has auditioned 4 times for this theater group that she really wants to be a part of. And she got four no's over the last 2 years. And this was just her 5th try auditioning all week. And I've been posting about it on Substack because I needed a place for my nervous energy. And I also, because I'm like, there's so much goodwill here, I feel like it helps to have people in your court. And so I posted like she's auditioning, wish her luck. And then I posted there were callbacks and she made it. And then that the cast list was going up today. She got in the goddamn play. It took 5 tries, but she finally got a yes. And I'm so thrilled for her. She is so elated. And this is just so important because it's for the fall and the next school year. Like, her older sister's leaving for college. She wanted this so bad and she needed a win. I'm like, resiliency, yeah. I've kind of had enough of my child learning resiliency. I'd like her resiliency to pay off. It's about fucking time. So she is in the play and she has a decent number of lines and she is thrilled. So these are all wonderful things about today. So thank you for letting me go on about this. What's going on with all of you? Does anyone in the chat have some like big exciting news that happened today that they want to share? I will read it back if anyone feels like sharing. And also kind of a big deal. I hit 200 paid subscribers today, you guys. 200. That's incredible. And so much of that has happened just in the last few weeks. Like, the growth that's happened on I Write Out Loud has been immense. And I'm so grateful to all of you who are showing up and restacking and just and subscribing yourselves. Like, it's working. People are finding my writing, they're finding my podcasting, and they are subscribing to it, either as free or paid subscribers. And I'm so elated. It feels like a world of like, hold on, superstitious to knock wood. Oh, sorry, Kira, that was me. So dumb. Why did I do that? That was just me, sweetie. She'll never believe me. So the level of hope this gives me that one day this can actually really be my job, my work in the world. That is what I'm working towards. And this feels so foundational. I know it's just the beginning, but it feels massive for me. And I'm so grateful. I tell all my young friends to check you out. Thanks, Denise. I don't know how young you think I am, but I am assuredly not the age of your young friends. I'd like to think that what I write about, it's pretty Gen X focused, but also I hope there are lessons in there that transcend generations, including my theme for this week. Well, you're 73. Okay, so you've got a few years on me, but not that many. Whatever age you are, I am happy that you all are here. I'm thrilled that you all are here. And if I can ask one more favor and to have you all click those hearts so that people find this live, I would love that. I'm clicking myself because, why not? Let me grab the links that we're going to be talking about today because I usually post 1 essay a week for I Write Out Loud. I think most of you know that. It's on Mondays, and that is, I tend to post 1. Sometimes it's a brand new essay. Sometimes it is a new to Substack essay that is coming from my archives. My goal for I Write Out Loud is for it to become the centralized home for all of my creative nonfiction. And I'm doing it in a way that is kind of creatively consistent. I think it's rather beautiful. I like the brand palette. All of the images have a consistent look and feel. And also, I read all of the stories out loud so that it is not an AI voice that you're listening to. It is my voice reading them as intended with a little bit of dog noise in the background. And every now and then a meow, because that's how I roll. So this week I have posted 3 essays already, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And it's because my theme for this week is pride centered. It is about parenting gender nonconforming children, which is, I guess, from a content perspective, how I contribute to pride since I am myself heterosexual and cishet. But my daughter, the aforementioned Nico, who got the part in the play that she desperately wanted to be in, went through a gender journey a few years back. And when she did it, I had no roadmap for what to do as a parent. And thankfully, out here in Seattle, a lot of folks are going through the same thing. A lot of kids are going on gender journeys. So I had a supportive community. I know not everybody does. And I was like, I would eventually like to start writing about this. And so I started a publication called Pink Hair and Pronouns on Medium. It's still there if you go to pinkhairandpronouns.com. And some of those stories I have been bringing over to Substack. So this week we have 3 to talk about. And thank you for saying my reading voice is really nice, Dana. Dana Von Allman was one of the 2 Danas who joined Lawrence and me on the Daily Whatever show for our Triple Dana show. It was the weirdest theme ever, but it was wonderful to get to meet you, Dana. And hi, Chris. I see you were here. Dana and Chris are 2 of the people who helped me hit 200 paid subscribers. You guys are brand new subscribers to the channel. So it is great to have you here. Before I launch into talking about these essays I posted this week, first I need to shift in my uncomfortable seat. My soft podcasting chair is still down in the basement where I hope to build a podcasting studio. I should probably bring it up here back to my dining room for a while though, because I'm a long ways from having that studio ready. But paid subscribers, 200 today, a huge milestone. Thank you, thank you, thank you to Chris, to Dana, to every one of you who has contributed. If you are not yet a paid subscriber and you have been thinking about becoming one, I have to do my pitch before we get started, because if you don't ask, things do not happen for you in this world. I have been running introductory pricing for I Write Out Loud. I'm just over 4 months in, and have come to realize in the last few weeks that I am no longer in an introductory window. I am in an arrived and I'm doing this thing window. And so I have had been running a $4 a month, $40 a year introductory pricing. The $4 a month one ended a couple days ago, Sunday night. But the $40 annual subscription will continue to run until Sunday the 21st. So you've got about a week and a half left on that pricing, and then that will roll off as well. And these are the $40 a month is about half of what Substackers are typically charging, kind of half the norm of a Substack annual subscription. So it is a great value, and it is also a lifetime subscription. So if you sign up now, it will endure. There won't be any jump scares in a year when it renews. So I will put the link in here just for funsies. There is no pressure, but if you have been thinking about becoming a paid subscriber to my work, now is a fantastic time. I do want all of my early supporters who are interested to not miss out on the introductory pricing, because I am working toward some different content types that are going to be for paid subscribers. And some of them are going to be educational or mentorish in flavor. And I'm pretty excited about it. I'd like to think I've learned a thing or two in my almost year and a half on Substack, especially through the Daily Whatever show and the work that Lawrence and I have done. I've been a memoir writer online for 3.5 years now. So I think I have some wisdom to impart, and would love to share it with all of you. So we'll close down the talk about paid subscriptions. I might mention it again at the very end, but otherwise, let's talk about these stories. I have 3 of them. They are all pulled up here, and I'm going to post them in order of appearance. This one, the first one came up on Monday. Oops, did that cut and paste? Yep. It is called I Am Filled with Pride for My Gender Fluid Child, obviously for Pride Month. And then the second one, which seems maybe a bit contradictory by the title, but it is not, and we'll get into that, is called I'm Not Proud of My Child for Coming Out. I have too many windows open here because I've got YouTube and Facebook open as well. And then the third one that I posted today is called My Child Came Out as Gender Fluid, then they went back in. And I'm going to put that one in the chat here. Oh, thank you, Dana, for calling my story touching and beautiful. I'm not sure which one you mean, so you'll have to let me know which one you're referring to. But yeah, these are all stories I wrote in 2024. So, excuse me. So one thing that I write out loud is when I revisit these stories, when I post them here and I write out loud, and then I read them out loud to record them for all of you to listen to, it really, as I reread these words, first of all, I think it kind of puts power into the universe. I know that's very woo. I'm getting more woo, you guys. I've been pulling a lot of tarot cards lately. I've been listening to my friend Karen Marie Shelton, the astrologer, and I've been doing these once a month new moon intention setting podcasts with Karen and with Oceana Teffenhart. And goddamn, if every one of the things, every intention being set doesn't come true, it does. And whatever Karen says happens. So I'm getting a bit woo about things. And it was on that first one where I said, I think I want to start a home for my creative nonfiction here on Substack, and I want to read the stories out loud because I think it will put magic out there and it will make things happen. So that was where the inspiration came from. But in doing that, in revisiting my words, I get to see how much still resonates. I get to see how much has evolved or changed, or in the case of these essays, devolved since I wrote them. And yeah, the devolution from these 3 essays, like it broke my heart reading them because I can still feel the intent I was putting out in the world as I wrote these and the assumptions that I was making in writing these. And it's just gutting how wrong I was. And we're going to get into that now. I have some notes here I'm going to pull up because I don't want to miss any of these talking points. So let me give a bit of backstory on why I'm writing stories about parenting gender nonconforming kids. I talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but I want to do it in more detail now. Let's see, in March of 2021, about a year into pandemic, not to make this too long a story, I'll just say my younger child, Nico, came out as gender fluid. And this is not a child who showed signs of dysphoria earlier in her life. And I may shift what pronouns I'm using as I go. Nico now is using she, her, or sometimes if you say they, that's fine. It's mostly I don't care these days. So I will use she, but when I'm referring back in time and in these essays, you'll see I'm often using they because for most of the time during her gender journey, she was using they, them pronouns. So bear with me as I'm going back and forth. I always feel like I need to clarify that I'm not misgendering. And I think there is something tricky about when you're talking about the past and what dead naming means, which we may get into all of that today. So here's my child. She comes downstairs with a note for me, which it's in one of the essays. I can't remember which one has an image of the note. I think it's the second one. Let me take a look. Which one of you has the image of the note? Nope, it's the third one. So she comes downstairs with a note for me that says, "Hi, I'm gender fluid," and she introduces a new name. I write about this so I can say it out loud. I have another essay about it. Her given name is Annika, and she changed her name to Nico. And Nico has stuck. I look at my child and I don't see Annika anymore. I see Nico. The name just suits her. And it's probably easier for me than for some parents because Nico is a real name, not like a random noun, like a lot of kids some pick. And it is adjacent to her given name. I feel like Nico sounds a bit like a diminutive of Annika. Nika would be a more direct diminutive, but she intentionally picked a gender neutral name, actually a more masculine leading name. People often think Nico is a boy before they meet her. But at any rate, she came downstairs, she gave me this note. And what was so interesting was because it was during pandemic, she was not socializing much, but she was on text threads with her older sister's friends. She's been chasing her older sister around her whole life. And her friends mostly didn't have phones yet. So she was in on these text threads, and that's kind of what socialization was then. And as it turned out, it was within these text threads that a lot of these kids, these girls, came out and were no longer girls. And she told me about it. She leaked it to the mom. I was the only mom who knew for a while. And I kind of knew she might be doing the same thing. And then she did. But what that meant was I had a community of parents, of moms mostly, who to talk to about this stuff. And we navigated a lot of questions together. And because she had asked me when she came out to post it to Facebook, and I did, that was before it was called Meta and it got the level of scary that it is today. I posted it to universal acceptance because I live in Seattle and because I don't follow conservative people. If they say off color things, I block them. So I became a kind of a lightning rod for other parents as their kids were doing the same. I'd get all of these DMs of like, I've always been an ally and I have no problem with queer people, but my kid's doing this thing and it just seems strange because they've never shown signs of this before and I don't know what this means and I don't know what I should do. And I ended up giving some advice, not knowing if necessarily if it was the right advice. But I think a lot of it was helpful. And so when I started writing on Medium, I was like, this is something I really want to write about. And that's why I founded the publication. By the time I founded it, Nico's gender journey was pretty well over. And she had kind of lost interest in all the different pride flags she was constantly drawing and all the different, identities she was trying on, so to speak, both gender and sexual identities. And what I've come to learn is a lot of kids do that. So, what was my lived experience is not unique. And that flavor, that colors, kind of informs a lot of the writing that's on Pink Hair and Pronouns that I did. And the editorial direction, which was you're not allowed to come on here and be transphobic, full stop. I wrote a whole tenets of what is and isn't transphobic. With the help of a couple editor friends, one of whom was Melissa Corrigan, who has a trans son, and one of whom was Kelly Sophia Grace, who is a trans woman herself. Because I don't work in isolation on stuff that is not, in my lane. All of that said, it was always intended to be a space where it was okay to ask questions. And there were people every now and then who would flare up on Medium who would accuse us of being transphobic for asking questions that I had to remind them, like, this is not primarily an LGBTQ audience. They're a secondary audience. The primary audience is straight parents who are trying to navigate the world of having gender nonconforming children, which is a pretty new thing to be navigating. I think I gave you a lot of background, but that's a pretty good summary. I'm going to come over here to the chat to see if there are any questions for me. I see words carry energy. I believe that entirely. My pronouns are now release the fucking Epstein files and he, him. Same, except mine are she, her. But I love that. I love that. Thank you for saying Nico is beautiful. So the third of the three stories is paywalled partway through. And it's because, it's because I am going to be paywalling some of my content moving forward. And it's I also put a photo of Nico in there, and I didn't want to. There are things I will put in paywall stories that I will not just put out to the internet at large. Um, that photo of her though with all the rainbow stuff, and she has a mask on so you can't see her full face, but she's such a little pixie, and that was just how she dressed all the time when she was going through gender stuff. She's horrified by these photos now, which I also think is adorable, but because she's like undeniably adorable. Let me see here. When you were discussing that other essay, I thought that I recalled where you were using the gender pronoun that matched the timeline, like you were matching the pronoun of the past, which kind of blew me away that you were even keeping a pronoun memory. Yeah, Chris, during the this whole time when all of the kids were kind of going through their journeys, the parents were and I were joking that we needed a spreadsheet to keep track of the name and pronoun changes. And that was kind of true for a while. Now things have settled more. And this is one thing that I find really interesting, at least within the subset of kids who I know, which was a decent subset of kids who were on gender journeys. Um, I'm trying to think of the numbers. Maybe 25% of them still identify as trans or gender nonconforming in some way. Maybe it's a little higher than that, maybe because some of these kids I don't really know that well anymore. But quite a few of them, their experience is very much like Nico's, where they came back around to where they started gender wise, but mostly I can't think of a single one that went back to an old name. The name always stuck, which is really interesting. None of them have legally changed their name yet, including Nico, and I'm not sure if she will. But it used to be kind of hard for her to hear it. Now she does not care. When we travel and she opens her passport, she just says Annika and hands it to them. And it's like I I don't know if the way I handled this had anything to do with it. I would like to think and hope it did, but it's just a very pragmatic, like that's my legal name and it doesn't, it's fine. It's that on paper, but this is what people call me is, and her school system absolutely calls her Nico. Again, I think the name is so close, it would be like a Daniel who wanted to go by Dan or vice versa. Like it's just, it's not a completely different name. So let's see here. Same here. If my questions lead to negative feedback, it's not taken to heart. Block. Kristen, this is a safe space. So, unless you're coming in here with transphobic or like right wing MAGA intent, your questions are welcome and safe here. You must leave for now. We'll look for the recording. Great, Chris. Thank you for popping in. It's been great seeing you. And let me ask this of the chat. If anyone is willing to speak up, I won't say your name out loud and the text goes away. But if there is anyone here who is parenting a gender nonconforming child and wants to let me know, raise your hand. And it is so sad that we're in a world now where the need for anonymity is there, right? Like that's what we're going to get into. So I spent a lot of time, more time than I intended to, talking about my child's story, but I do think that it is helpful for context. And these three stories, when told together, they go from me saying I'm filled with pride for my gender fluid child. As I said, her fluidity, and I would still actually call her gender fluid, I guess, because she was fluid and it could happen again. This could be a long pause. It could be the rest of her life. I'm not fussed either way. I tell the story of her coming out and I just talk about like all of the times and all of the changes she went through as she went from gender fluid to pansexual to neo boy to non-binary to I don't care, and how at each step of the way I was filled with pride and why. And a big moral of the story on this one is as a parent watching this happening, as a Gen Xer myself, there was just part of me that was like, Nico, why are you in such a rush to define this? And all her friends too, they would all be like, I'm bisexual. No, I'm a lesbian. No, I'm pansexual. And at the time I was like, you're in 5th grade, you guys. You are nothing. You're not sexually active yet or dating in any way, shape, or form. Why are you rushing to define this? But what I really realized was it made me think back to my school experience. and how in my high school of 2,500 kids, there was one gay kid. And I'm being very tongue in cheek there, wink, wink. There was one kid who was so queer presenting that he just couldn't hide it. And he was teased mercilessly, but there were no other gay people. Wink, wink. I went to high school with Lawrence, by the way, who didn't come out to me even until he was 22, 23 years old. The fact that they are so open, my kids are so open with their gender and sexual identities, and they have been for such a young age, they don't even know that the fact that they don't see themselves as obligated to stay in any one area, that the exploration is open to them, is giving such freedom to people who in the past would have had to hide. And I have such pride in them for recognizing that, even though they didn't consciously make that choice, obviously, they don't know the context. But what an immense gift their willingness to explore actually is. And I think that's what I do a lot in this kind of writing, is a reframing where the political wrong side of the aisle would be like, see, it's not real. It's there, which I get into by the last essay about the idea of social contagion. And it's like, it is real. It's a real exploration. And there's an implication by what they're saying that it's doing harm. And my reframing of that is the good that it's doing by destigmatizing it and just making it like, well, yeah, of course we all tried on stuff. That's just what we did. Or, whatever. It was sixth grade. I was something else. I'm in 10th grade now. Like, that's a beautiful thing in my mind. Let me check the chat because I just said a lot and I want to see if people have to say. Do you think more girls or women experience gender fluidity than boys and men due to the social pressures and masculinity expectations? That's such a big question, Sammy. And hi, Ultra VY. I see you waving at me. I'm waving back. Sammy, I have a lot of thoughts about that, and that would be a really good essay. I do think from my lived experience, it was mostly the girls who were doing this. And for a while, it seemed like it was almost all the girls. And I'm debating how much I want to say here about this on a public forum. Mostly because I don't ever want to do harm to a marginalized community. I will say that I think both for boys and girls growing up, there is immense pressure in both directions to be a certain way. And for the boys, it's to be stoic. And of course, there's this whole manosphere influence that's coming in that's awful. But for girls, it's to be extremely beautiful in ways that are wildly hard to maintain and expensive to maintain. And what I saw in some of these girls who went on this journey, this is part of my controversial opinion, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I think for some of them, they simply, as their bodies started changing, it's always a hard thing to face, right? Your puberty is so confusing. They didn't want to be recognized as, growing into a woman's body. And they certainly didn't want to do it the way that they were watching influencers just ahead of them doing it in this very hyper feminized, hyper beautiful, lip injection, fake eyelashes, all the makeup, all the nails, all the sexy clothes way. And I think this is my very controversial opinion, is that I think for some of them, they looked up and said, that can't be me. I can't look like that. And so I'm opting out. And I think non-binary became, for some of them it stuck, but for some of these kids I'm thinking of, it was a home for them for a while because it put a pause on expectations. And I know that is a controversial opinion. And I think hits the girls more than the boys at middle school age, right? There are not a lot of expectation on boys at middle school age. You're lucky if they wear deodorant. Like there's very little expectation. So that's a great question, Sammy, and that's an essay I would love to explore writing. In fact, I'm going to copy and paste your question since Substack can't seem to, hold on, save the chats for us, right? That's a really good question I want to hold on to. Okay. So, let me see here. Does Nico get upset that you are so open and sharing about their journey? So that's another really good question. Before I published the first essay that I ever wrote about this, and let me get that link. It's called "What to Expect When You Weren't Expecting a Gender Non-Conforming Child." I linked to it from these essays. It's kind of like the origin story. In fact, all I had to do was type in the word "what," and there it was. It was one of the very first stories I put and I write out loud because it is such an origin story for me. I asked her permission. I asked if she wanted to read it, and she said no, and it was fine. And then I told her I wanted to launch Pink Hair and Pronouns, and we came to this kind of like, I will not be in your spaces. And beyond that, I don't discuss in detail some of these stories. It's a really complicated thing. It's that whole idea of like what story is yours to tell and what story is not. And these are stories about my experiences as a mom doing this work. And I try to be pretty protective of, it's part of the reason I don't use my real last name, because I'm being protective of her. But I am aware that I've shared her name. And so that is a little bit of an opening. And I am aware of that. And I'm especially hyper aware of it now when there's so much persecution against queer people in the United States. So like I don't post these essays to Instagram. That's where my kids are. But I don't do it on Meta properties at all because I just keep them over on Substack and Medium where they are not and their friends are not, because that's what they care about. So that's my answer for that question. Denise says, I'm so sad that everything we fought for in the past for women and LGBTQ people is in jeopardy. Girl, same. And why do you think this is why I'm here? All the time, right? This is why I'm here. So I'm just scrolling down here. Perhaps boys felt more pressure to be a certain way. I mean, I think boys and girls both feel pressure, just different kinds of pressure. I grew up with Twiggy as a physical role model, and Twiggy, I was not. I mean, girl, same. Mine was more Kate Moss, but same idea, right? I will never be wafy. It doesn't matter how much weight I lose. This body does not get wafy, and that is that. At puberty, girls begin to realize that they lose agency and as they are turned into sexual objects. Just my opinion. Amy, yes, and I do think that that's part of. I do think that you cannot separate that from some of these gender journey questions. Do I think it's doing them harm? No. Do I think that you as a parent need to be aware that that's likely could be a part of it? Yes. Does it change how you respond? In my opinion, not really, because my advice has always been like, you listen, you learn as much as you can, you love them unconditionally, and you let them know that, and you protect them from one-way doors. And I think that gets you 90% of the way there. Maybe less now, though. That used to get you 90% of the way there. Now you need the layered part of letting them know that they are potentially in danger in the US. And that is a far more daunting task and a hardship. And I mean, that's the sad truth, is a big part of me is so relieved that Nico is not leaning into this anymore, because boy, this would make everything harder, right? If she insisted on a different gender marker on her passport or her driver's license she's going to be getting, if she wanted to be going through gender care, taking hormones, what have you, like those things are so much harder now. So I have immense empathy for parents who are having to make these really hard decisions with their kids that are hard anyways, with the additional layer of, oh, and you might be persecuted or hunted down and killed, as Trump wrote in his last counterterrorism order, for being trans. And how do you reconcile that with wanting to live an authentic out life? I wish I had a good answer. I don't. What I will say is that in revisiting these essays, I just see such a presumption of safety that it's abundantly clear to me that I was very naive. And that is probably my cis white woman bias showing that, um, I don't know, the world didn't, I was not anticipating a Trump 2.0. And once I knew he was reelected, I'm not surprised by anything that's happened since. But these essays were written in those Biden years, those gap years where it did seem like there was a relative safety that is, I have no illusions of any longer. And I have another essay. I have not shared it here yet, but I will. And that essay is about, well, there's two, and I shared one of them, and that one was around the first executive order that came out. But in November, right after Trump was elected, I hate even saying that. It just makes me want to vomit, but it is what happened. And right after that happened, I wrote an essay because I was really evaluating, like, do I need to take pink hair and pronouns down? I went and I didn't read all of Project 2025, but I did a control find on the word trans to see what it was saying. And it was quite clear that they were coming for trans people and also coming for trans supporters. And they were coming for people who wrote online talking about trans people. And so I had reached out to Medium, to Tony Stubblebine, who's the CEO, and I was like, does Medium have an official stance on this? And he was like, you don't have to take the content down, but I'd write under a pseudonym, which I already do. And he was like, but if they ultimately come after you, we would have to turn over your name and social security number. We have it through Stripe because, we writers are paid through Stripe behind Medium and Substack both. And he's like, we wouldn't be able to protect you. And I was like, fuck, okay. This is me. My kid's name is on there. But what really came up for me was just this, like, I am not going to obey in advance. I'm not. So I wrote about that and I have not taken it down. And now I am slowly but surely sharing all of the content here on Substack because I think it's important that the dumb white lady who thought that we had relative safety is out here speaking out. It's the least I can do. Trans people have to show up every day authentically. So if they have the courage to do that, I'm going to have the courage to show up too. And you all are as well by being here. So thank you. Let's see here. You're lucky if they shower without being told when they're in middle school. The boys, yes. I have two daughters, but yes, the boys, they can get pretty ripe when the boys are around. Lynette says, in my opinion, boys seem to take a little longer to mature, so their exploration could come later than the girls. That's true. And why do you say that is controversial? Your thoughts there honestly make a lot of sense. I think that they make a lot of sense too, Chris. The reason they're controversial is because, especially in left-leaning circles, just the implication that it could be anything other than an honest dysphoria can be met with resistance. There was when Nico, the third essay, the one that is mostly paywalled, is about this. When I talk about how my child came out and then she went back in, I'm being a bit tongue in cheek there with the wording, but it is about that, about how over time they came out, they were real emphatic about who they were, and then not so much anymore. And I know there are people on the wrong side of the political aisle who would be like, it was all fake, it was social contagion, with the implication that this was harming. Oh, can you guys hear that? Someone's driving by with a lot of bass or something. It was making my whole house vibrate. And so there are people who would say that that was doing, like, the conservative side would argue that it was social contagion, that it wasn't real. And I say, don't call it social contagion. It is real and it's a healthy exploration in my mind. But what I also found is I posted that story to Facebook when it first went live, and I got challenged by a trans non binary friend of mine. They were like, your child obviously just doesn't feel safe around you, and you should continue to use they, them pronouns because they've come out. And because they've come out, that's their identity and that's who they are. And they got pretty heated with me about that I was doing harm by not using they, them pronouns, even though my child, when asked, would say, I don't care. And she is fine. And you can use daughter and sister again. It's fine. And I politely got indignant with this friend and was like, no one gets to tell me I don't know my child and that I can't believe my child. Like, no one gets to say that. And the other side of that I was kind of nodding to here, this is usually stuff I would say for behind a paywall because people can take clips, right? I guess they can do that and share it even if it's behind the paywall. But blah 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 blah. That it because I'm acknowledging that it is not always permanent. It is not always identity. It is simply exploration. That is a point of view that in more left-leaning circles can be seen as controversial and problematic because it can be construed as supporting the MAGA side, that it's not real. I don't think it's not real. I just think it's not necessarily permanent. And you need to know that. You don't need to be like working them out of it. You just need to acknowledge what my lived experience has been, which is some kids come through this. And I think with so many kids trying this on, at least in liberal cities, there has to be an acknowledgement that for some it's not dysphoria. And that's a real controversial thing to say in some circles. Um, I'd like it to become a more normal thing to say of like, with our friend group, I'd say at one point, 75% of the girls had changed their names and or pronouns. And I don't think that many kids are really dysphoric. That's just, especially since none of these kids until puberty, until COVID came out. And time has proven that, right? I can think of two who are still fully trans. And I'm not sure about the rest, but the ones who I am sure of are like my kid. They've rolled back. So do with that information what you will. I think it's helpful to know for parents that it may not be permanent. It doesn't mean you don't take it seriously. You will not know until that your lived experience unfurls. Tomorrow, Nico might come home and be like, hey, I think I'm X. And I will say, I love you. What pronouns do you want me to use? You know, I have the tools now, so I know how to respond. And that's just we're just here to love them. That's where we're their parents. We don't make the decisions like that for them. So let me see here. Oh, hi, Dr. Hall. Hi, Jay. It's nice to see you guys. It is strange when it seems one day you were a girl and then you are treated like a woman the next day. Yeah. Oh, you're talking about coming of age and puberty. Yes. It is very strange. Sammy says, you kind of answered my earlier question, but I asked because boys and men may not have the emotional maturity to self reflect as girls, women. I think that's true. And I think there's more of a stigma, probably. A girl who wants to dress non binary or like a boy is, you know, tomboys have always been okay, but there are no tom girls. Or what would that be? It would be like a Tina girl or something. You know what I mean? It's so I think that I have heard the argument before when I have said like maybe this isn't all to, you know, some of this isn't dysphoria, it's the girls. I got the pushback of like, well, the boys just don't feel comfortable coming out because it's harder for boys. And I was like, maybe, I don't know. I know one boy who is now graduating high school who is well, he was a boy and he now identifies as femme trans. And kind of took a while to get there definitively, but I believe she is leaving for college. So I do have examples, but most of them were girls originally, and then presenting all over the spectrum. So this is something my kids get really angry at me about, is if I refer, and I think this is like a best practice in the trans community, that the assumption is if someone, if when a child is on a gender journey, like these kids are, to dead name them or refer to them by their old pronouns when describing something in the past, they get very upset. And the closest example I have to this, and it is not the same thing, but it sort of explains my brain, is Lawrence, Daily Whatever Show Lawrence, who I love dearly. I've known him since the 4th grade. And growing up, he went by Larry because that's what his mom called him. It was a diminutive. And around the time he turned 18, he was like, I'm Lawrence, please don't call me Larry. And he hates, like, even the word saying Larry is really uncomfortable now. He is fully Lawrence. Of course, I respect his name, and that's what I call him. But if I'm talking about a story that happened when we were really young, sometimes Larry pops out because that's who was in that narrative with me. That's who was there. Same thing when I look at a baby picture of my child, I might say Annika because that baby to me was Annika. And that's a big no-no in the trans community. I think it's a commonly made mistake with parents, and it's understandable. And my kids give me shit. I think they also kind of get why, because I have shown up for them in so many other ways. I hope they do. It doesn't happen very often now because the kids have mostly moved through this stuff. Let me see. We were all naive because who could have imagined the horrendous behavior of this present regime? I mean, once I knew he was coming back, I read Project 2025. I imagined it. I kind of knew it would be this horrible, and it is horrendous. So yes, that's a very good word to watch it all rolling out. These anti-trans policies will also hurt women and girls because sports officials will start checking athletes to confirm their genitals. Like the first dude or any gender person tries to look down my kid's pants, boy, would they get an army of me. Like the level of banana pants I would go on them. Yeah, that's just awful. Awful, awful, awful. Hi, Bob. Welcome. Such a great perspective regarding exploration. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All healthy, all good. In the 80s, people were experimenting with bisexuality. Yeah, true. True, true. My stance is that trans women are women. I am not in alignment with serfs and turfs. I really feel the need to take a strong stance. So when much harm is being done, same. We were talking earlier about what seemed controversial about my point of view. Like I have been accused of being a turf before for some of my views that I've expressed here around some of the skepticism as an adult talking to a child who is in this process. And I hope nobody thinks that about me. I really think. I hope the work I've done makes it clear that I am not a turf. I am a feminist, but I'm not turf. Let's see here. So I think I went completely off my script. I haven't even looked at it since we first started talking about all of this, but I bet I've hit a lot of the points because it's all right here. Yep. Yeah. These essays I wrote, these are a time capsule of optimism, and they really are, because these things are all still questions parents need to ask and advice that I hope is still helpful for them. But man, bigger fish to fry, right? It's kind of wild. Do you all have questions for me? I know we're coming up toward the top of the hour. If you all have questions for me, I would be happy to answer any of them. Let's see, Kathy says, I think you're a loving mom on your own journey with these gender issues. Your acceptance of the journey is a gift. Thank you. That's so sweet. What is a TERF? It's a it's a feminist who hates trans people. But what does it stand for? It's like a trans exclusionary radical feminist is what it stands for. And it describes a branch of radical feminism that rejects the inclusion of transgender women in women's spaces and rights advocacy. TERFs argue that womanhood is strictly defined by biological sex, anatomy, and genetics rather than gender identity. And it goes on from there. So J.K. Rowling is a TERF. Like she's kind of like the queen bee TERF, if that helps. Thank you, Amy. This is gross, but it's where we're at. I would suggest to my kids to drop a deuce in their undies right before officials tried to examine their parts. Oh my God, that's gross. But I wouldn't be mad. I think that's a good idea. So I just caught my eye. There's a crabapple tree out my window, and there's like a zillion little birds in it today. We're just all peeping around. I guess it's feeding time. Oh, that's so cute. I've never noticed them before. Yeah, Sammy, no argument for me. I'd say your kids should go for it. Whatever it takes. That's right. Do you guys have any other questions for me on any of these 3 essays? I'm going to go ahead and share the links again. And I will say, if you enjoyed these essays, I would love if you would put a little heart on them to like them, or even better, if you would restack them so that other people can find them. That that is about the kindest thing you can do to a writer on Substack, because that helps more people. That would help me find more people find my work. Boy, whew, I got there eventually, right? And that just helps us all grow so much. So I would super appreciate that. And I know a lot of you have already, and I so appreciate all the wonderful comments and restacks that you all have left on these 3 essays. It was a busy week. 3 in a row is like, phew. I've heard that people become more conservative as they get older, but I'm becoming more liberal. Amy, same. But look at the world in which we're coming of age. Like, how, if you are not becoming like radicalized against what's happening, I don't even know how to relate to you. I don't. Full stop. So, yes, I am also likewise becoming less and less conservative as I age. When I was in high school, I had to read The Fountainhead, and I was like super into Ayn Rand for a hot second, like teenagers can be, like virtue of selfishness, man. Howard Rourke laughed. A is A. I was super into it. And now I'm like, oh, sweet summer child. No, 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 no. One day I should write an essay about my young love for Ayn Rand and what I still love about her writing, because there is stuff I still love about her books, but what she gets so, so, so wrong, and what others get so, so, so wrong when they read her work. Yeah, also no fucks left to give. That's the magic of being our ages. There's no time to give the fucks, right? It's just, yeah, you got to. Well, it is 6 p.m. here, which means 9 p.m. for you all on the East Coast. I am so grateful that you have come and spent this hour with me. I am so grateful my child got cast in her play. That is like buoying me. I am very excited. I have good hair, and I'm probably going to go outside while it's still light out and take some vanity pictures of myself. Though I can't find my selfie stick anywhere. And I am so grateful that today I hit 200 paid subscribers, and I'm like a hair short of 4,000 subscribers on I Write Out Loud. I think the last time I looked, it was like 22 short. So maybe by end of week, I really like even numbers, you guys. So 204,000 would just make my day. And if you're, I said I'd put the link up again at the end. If you are not yet a paid subscriber and you have been thinking about becoming one, now is a great time, because my introductory annual pricing is still live for another week or so. It is just $40 a year, and that is for life. That rate will never go up at annual renewal time. There will be no jump scares in your credit card statement. So just $40 supports this work for an entire year, and I would so welcome it. I also have a lot of features that I'm looking to roll out for my paid subscribers in the coming months, and I would love to have you all there while it happens. So no pressure, but if you are at a space to do it, you've got the link in there. And Amy, thank you for the compliment on my hair. I like literally raced back here after my hair appointment. So I'm feeling very glamorous right now, and it just, It feels so good. I don't even want to touch it because every time I touch it, it'll get less nice. Hi, Darvid. Welcome. We're just wrapping up, but I'm glad to see your face here in the chat. Let me see here. It's the best part of menopause for you is that you don't care what other people think. Yeah. You may care a little about certain people. It's not that I don't care what all people think. I care about what you all think because I respect your opinions. But yes, there is a sense of like putting your own needs, like knowing what's right and putting your what you need to forward. It's a good feeling. Okay, and with that, my dears, love you, mean it. I will be talking about this a bit more also in Sunday Salon, especially about that third essay and some of the talking points I get into on that one. That'll be in Sunday Salon, which is a paid subscriber benefit, our intimate little gathering Sunday mornings. Well, mornings for me at 10 a.m., 1 p.m. on the East Coast. Would love to have you there. Oh, and tomorrow is the new moon discussion, our Crone cocktail hour. It is at 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific. That will be me, Karen Marie Shelton, and Oceana Tuffenhart. I think Oceana's scheduling it. It's not live yet, but we'd love to see you at any and all of these things. Oh, and the Daily Whatever show tomorrow with Letters from a Feminist and Professor Meredith. It's going to be amazing. And that is at 10 a.m. Eastern time, 7 a.m. Pacific. Okay. Y'all, I'm tired. So many things. I love you all. Mean it. Bye. Oh, wait, I have to log off over here because we're at StreamYard now. There's the button. Bye.